just get started. Just get started. The longest time in the world is the hesitation between thought and action. Well, at least it has the potential to be the longest time. It can actually be forever. Forever. Einstein, his theory was that time is flexible, time is pliable. And to prove that, beyond what Einstein said, 1 second can actually become an eternity. That's how much it can flex. You can hesitate for 1 second to get started on something, a workout, a project, a task, something that you know you should do. You can hesitate for 1 second. That 1 second of hesitation, all of a sudden it turns into 5 seconds. And then 10 seconds. And then 10 minutes. And then just like that, you drifted into the eternity zone. 1 second became an eternity because something that was gonna happen is now never gonna happen, ever. Why is that? Because you hesitated. You hesitated. So don't take that chance. Instead, take action. Take action. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. You've had enough damn rest. Go take action.
There's been many days where I didn't want to work out. I just didn't feel like I had the energy, and I just forced myself. And I think there's very few people out there that know how to force themselves. That's a learned.
Yeah.
That's a learned skill. It's that kind of discipline and focus. You have to have like real rigid requirements of yourself, where you don't allow yourself to back out of things, and you don't allow yourself to slack off. And I don't think people put those kind of requirements on themselves as if it's it is a daily principle of life, like what you must get done. You know, you must brush your teeth, you must exercise for 45 minutes. And if you did that, I think you'd be healthier and happier, and your body would perform more smoothly. And if you require your body to do things like that, I think it rises to the occasion. There are very few people that have that kind of discipline. So because of that, they come up with excuses. And excuses are a giant part of the problem. It's not simply a physical health issue. There's also mental aspects of it, and discipline's a big one. I just know way too many people who are weak mentally. And I can't just chalk it off to only, you know, their physical, the way they physically feel, because I felt like shit 100 times, and then I worked out, and then I felt way better.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. That's real. You know, you just gotta. And people don't know how to do that. And it's not. And if you're used to doing this, get in your car, sit down, drive to the office, sit down, go to the lunch, sit down. You know, go to the board meeting, sit down. Get in your car on the way home, sit down. Get home in front of the TV, sit down. Then go to the gym, fuck off. They don't have any energy. You know, their body's not, their body's like, I don't have it in me to do this. And I don't believe that. I think it's a lot of it is the mindset. But to give people this excuse, I don't have the energy to exercise, that is crazy to say. Can you walk to the fucking refrigerator? Yes. Well, you can exercise. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just walk around the block. There's 80-year-old ladies who take yoga with me. They're fucking really old, and they're in there. They're going after it. They could easily say, I don't have the energy to do that. But they don't. It's a mental attitude. They make a decision.
I agree. Like, there's a lot of it's discipline. You're going to get people who just won't exercise.
You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to go to a CrossFit class and try to do the workout of the day. You don't have to go nuts and do clean and presses with 150 pounds. You don't have to do that. But you have to do something. Just get your blood moving. Your body has requirements. It wants to move. It really does. And when it does, you feel better. But people like to give themselves this excuse. I do not have the energy to do this. Whatever. If you decide that, that's true. But if you watch a motivational video, there's 100 of them on YouTube, thousands even. You go watch one, you'll get fired up. You're like, fuck it, I'm going to jump some rope. You jump some rope. You do something. Just do some push-ups. Do something. Do some bodyweight squats. You'll feel better. But it's also like learning that and having that as a part of your daily life.
Most people have done all that they're ever going to do. They raise a family, they earn a living, and then they die. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning. And here's what I will share with you, that in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment, a lot of failure, a lot of pain, a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats. But in the process of doing that, you will discover some things about yourself that you don't know right now. What you will realize is that you have greatness within you. What you'll realize is that you're more powerful than you can ever begin to imagine. What you will realize is that you are greater than your circumstances, that you don't have to go through life being a victim. The other thing is that most people, ladies and gentlemen, they get comfortable. They stop growing, they stop working on themselves, they stop stretching, they stop pushing themselves, and they end up becoming very cynical about life, and they throw in the towel on themselves, on their families, and on their dreams. And the other thing is that most people don't feel worthy. And not only is it important for you to know it's possible for you to choose your future, but it's necessary that you work on yourself, that you develop yourself. It's necessary that you get the energy drainers out of your life, people who don't want anything. It's necessary to know that everybody won't see it, that everybody won't join you, that everybody won't have the vision. It's necessary to know that a lot of people like to complain, but they don't want to do anything about their situation, that you are an uncommon breed. You have to know within yourself that I can do this. Even if no one else sees it for me, I must see it for myself. That's necessary.
We can't be in cruise control. You can't let your mind be in cruise control. You have to be cognizant of what you're thinking. You have to be cognizant, you have to be aware of how you are being influenced. Because in this day and age, right now, if you aren't careful, you can slide down the path of least resistance, the path to weakness, the path to fragility, and the path to a lack of control as to what is happening in our lives, in your life. Life will happen to you instead of life happening for you. Do not allow that. Just do not allow that. You have to take control. You got to do something to get control of your brain, of your mind. You got to check yourself. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you set an alarm every 45 minutes so you can audit your thoughts, so you can audit what is influencing you, so you can control what's influencing you. Control the things you think about. You can actually control how you feel. You can control what you think, and you can definitely control what you do. Do not be a slave to influence. You got to be the master of your mind. You got to control your mind. You got to exercise mind control. That means you got to pay attention and be aware all day. That's what you got to do. So go execute.
That on the other side of temporary pain, you meet your other self. If you can survive the temporary, you'll meet another version of you. See, we're wired all the way back to the caveman days to avoid pain. That's how our brains are wired. It keeps us alive. What actually keeps you alive does not make you successful. And so our proclivity is to avoid pain and discomfort. And when we're going through it, we try to get through it in such a way that it doesn't cause us much pain. I had Phil Heath. I have the best business and self-development podcast in the world. It's the #1 podcast in that space in the world. You should listen to it. I had Phil Heath on my show, the 7-time Mr. Olympia recently. He's become a good friend. I like Phil a lot. I said, Phil, how do you win 7 Mr. Olympias? That's a big deal. Not one. To win it once is miraculous, right? How do you win 7 times? And he gave me an answer on the podcast. I go, that's not why. He goes, well, why? I said, you have a different relationship with pain than everybody else. You pursue it and chase it when you go in the gym, because you know on the other side of that pain, you get introduced to another set of legs. You get introduced to another set of biceps. You get introduced to another set of abs. So you're willing to go through it. Most guys will do what they can to minimize it, mitigate it, or avoid it. I want to remind you of something. You are one decision away from changing your life. And you have to accept that. You're one new meeting, one new relationship, one new contact, one new action, one new decision away from shifting your life from where it is right now to a totally different place. So what's the decision? You already know. I could go backstage now. There's something you've been hesitating on. There's a contact you need to make, isn't there? There's a job you need to quit. There's a relationship you need to engage in. Maybe there's a relationship you need to leave. I don't know what it is, but I know there's a decision that you need to make to take you to the next level, just like I know that's true for me. Because decisions shape our destiny when they're backed up by some massive ass action. Okay, but you can't take the action if you don't decide. Everyone say yes. People avoid being desperate. Think of the fact they come here tonight and they're down. They're not where they want to be financially. Their relationships aren't what they want. Maybe they're in a desperate place, and you might think that's a negative thing. But when you're in a desperate place, you take the best actions. Desperation is a great place to be. Those of you that are achieving, one of the reasons the achievement is slowed down is you've allowed yourself to feel less desperate. When you were broke and starting your business, or when you were brand new in your relationship and you were desperate to get her to love you or desperate to get him to love you, you took massive big action. How many of you are moms in the room? Raise your hand. You moms, if you woke up tomorrow morning and your baby wasn't in their bed, would you be desperate right away, yes or no? Big time desperation. You wouldn't be thinking about what you need to do. You'd be acting, wouldn't you? You'd immediately make the decision. You'd take massive action. You'd search the house. You'd go into the street. Would you worry if your makeup was on right? How you looked? What people thought about you? You wouldn't, would you? Have to have the perfect plan to go find your baby that's missing. You wouldn't need any of that because you were desperate. So when you remove desperation, all this bullshit creeps into your life where you think you have to have the perfect plan and look the perfect way and have the perfect thoughts and be all zen and perfect. What you need is to be desperate. What you need is to get after it. And I want you to get desperate to make that decision. Why? Because our obsessions become our possessions. What you obsess about most regularly, you will eventually possess in your life. The challenge for most people, sisters and brothers, is that we obsess on the things we're fearful of, what we don't have, what we're worried about. And then we end up possessing those things over and over again rather than programming ourselves to become obsessed with what we want, what our dreams are, what we believe we deserve. When we become obsessed about those things, long term, we end up possessing those things. So the way that I changed my life first is I worked on my identity. Your identity is the thoughts, concepts, and beliefs that you hold to be most true about yourself. Stay with me. Here's how it works. This is how life works. I can teach you all of the mechanics of winning. But winning is about 75% psychology, about 25% mechanics. And if you can't get the psychology part right, you can do all the actions perfectly, and you've proven this to yourself several times, and still not produce the results you want. Here's why. Your identity is like a thermostat setting for your entire life. So there's a thermostat in this room. It's set the room to a temperature. Let's just say it's 75 degrees. Guess what sets the temperature for the entire room? The thermostat. That's how life works too. It's not the external things that enter our lives that dictate what our life is like. In this room, if we open the door and hot air blew in here, 90 degrees of air blew in, right? What would the thermostat do? It would regulate the room, turn the air conditioner on, and cool the room back to 75 degrees. Am I right or am I right? That's what happens in your life. You have a thermostat setting for your relationships, for your faith, for your money, for your wellness, for your body, for your spirituality, for your business. And what's happened to you over and over again is you start to get you're a 75 degree, or let's say in business, and you start to get it going, don't you? It's going better than it's ever gone before. The results are incredible. And then all of a sudden, 90 days later, you've cooled your life back down to 75 degrees again. You've had great relationships in your life. When you're 75 degree or inside, the relationship's beautiful, it's wonderful, everything's incredible. 90 days later, you've cooled it back down to 75 degrees. In your body, you had a 75 degree identity physically, and you got in shape, you started eating good, you were working out, you're a 90, 95 degree body. 90 days later, you cooled it back down to 75 again. This regulates everything in our life. So you can't get out over your skis. You can't exceed your identity long term. It'll never happen. This is why people's lives yo-yo up and down, because they always work on the external mechanics and not the internal identity of their lives. And this governs your happiness, your peace, your fitness, your money, all of it.
How many times do you have to hear, if nothing changes, nothing changes? Right? We all have heard this. I don't even know where it comes from. I probably heard that first when I was 10 years old. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And yet, somehow we expect things to change. We expect things to change. You think you're gonna get in better shape. You think you're gonna get more money. You think your relationship is gonna improve. You think you're gonna get promoted. You think you're gonna get a raise. You think the world is going to get better without you doing anything, but it isn't. Nothing is going to change unless you change what you're doing. Change the junk food that you're eating. Change the time that you wake up. Change what you do when you get out of bed. Change what you do with your time. That's what you need to do. You have to change some things or nothing will change. So make changes and start little. Get up a little bit earlier. Get a workout done. It doesn't have to be epic. It doesn't have to be epic. You don't have to do a 3-hour leg day, but get up and get something done. And how about you plan your day? How about you plan what you're gonna do in the day? How about you bring your lunch to work with you so you don't have to eat a slice of pizza or a damn burger and fries? How about you change what time you get to work by showing up 10 minutes earlier and you square your gear away, or you dial in your tools or your desk or your workspace? That's what you need to do. You make those little changes, those little habits that you have to change them, those bad habits. And you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised, the little things, the little changes, they add up and they become big things. Change the little things, and over time, you can change your life. But if you don't change what you're doing and how you do it, nothing else will change.